What's going on, Eagles Nation? It's your boy Showtime 804. Back at it like we never left. Again, for all of those who have, thank you for subscribing. For those who just tuning in, like, comment, subscribe, tell a friend and tell a friend and tell a friend. We're going to go ahead and get this thing going. So, we just finished the game against our arch rival Dallas Cowboys. And, you know, even though it was a win, I'm going to take a win, but this game was just flat out ugly. And we all anticipated a blowout, being how the Cowboys played in recent weeks, but that wasn't the case, and it was one of those things that I did feel was going to happen, where our team more often than not, we play down to the level of competition, and sometimes that goes on players, but I think this is more of a coaching decision. The game plan was just terrible again. It's too many times that we have to wait for these long, drawn-out plays to develop, and that leads to Carson Wentz holding on to the ball, um, receiving unnecessary pressure when he could just, throw the ball away. But you have to live and die with that kind of mentality that he has, that he wants to, make the spectacular play. That's going to be in his pedigree, his DNA as far as a football player. So you got to kind of live with the good and the bad. Some of the plays that we saw, like that fourth down play in the first half, where the delayed blitz came, and they had Ward and I believe it was Rhaegar in the middle of the field, and a lot of post-game analysis of it was, everybody still shot in those frames where you see those two receivers in the middle of the field, and Van Der Esch is coming through on a delayed blitz. But if you look at that still shot, it's like Carson Wentz's eyes are going somewhere else. So those two crossing routes in the middle of the field weren't necessarily the hot read. They weren't the first read. So they were later on in the progression of the field. So he took a sack and a fumble. The first interception he threw in the corner of the end zone again, it's a long developing play. So he's waiting. Once he sees Rhaegar break towards the outside, it wasn't a tight coverage, but it was double coverage. There was some over-the-top help. But it looked like it was going to be a good idea at the time. The ball was away where only the receiver could get it at that point, but Diggs made a play on the ball. And I'm seeing a lot of issues with our receivers where they're not coming back to the ball or going to the ball aggressively. They're just waiting for the ball to get there, and that's what's going to happen when you have younger receivers. They don't know to anticipate those type of things. The second interception to Hightower. Hightower, to me, it seems like he has a problem tracking the ball in the air. We've seen that on multiple plays this game where he kind of lost sight of where the ball is, where if he continues out the route, he can make the catch. And that pass, once the winds kind of took it, he lost track of where the ball actually was, because you can see he shortened up the route. He didn't run deeper than Diggs. Defensively, I don't know what this team needs to do as far as stopping a reverse. The discipline is just not there because of that wide nine. You're going to stop the run on the way to the quarterback. But our defensive ends are always crashing down, leaving lanes available, leaving us open for those cutback runs. And it happens way too often. They're just crashing down with no kind of sense and discipline as to set the edge. Now, that happens because you have lesser guys playing at that linebacker spot. They're not as instinctive as you would like to be. Seeing TJ Edwards on the field today was a breath of fresh air. We now have a competent middle linebacker, a guy who can, instinctively make plays towards the football instead of being reactive to the play coming towards him. The Jason Peters situation still reared its ugly head. We saw that on the first drive when DeMarcus Lawrence beat Joe Mailata clean off of a play on the edge. He didn't stand a chance because he's been comfortable in the left tackle's position, and then he's never played a snap at the right tackle, and he practiced primarily at left tackle. So just flip-flopping the line was just not a good thing. That we saw somewhere in the second quarter, Peters got hurt. So now what was the backup plan at that point? So were you going to switch Mailata back to left tackle, then bring in Brett Toth to come in at right tackle? Like, so all of that stuff is just, unnecessary movement that needed to happen. And like I said, this is flat out on coaching. It's somebody's got to make a stand and do a better job. Now I'm glad we get this bye week to come up, and hopefully we can regroup. Some of those offensive minds that we brought in can, take a step forward and actually do their job. Um, when we see Carson Wentz on his turnover plays, he's often sitting by himself with the tablet or talking to Nate Sudfeld, and that's not what you need. You need the coach to get into his head so that way you can see what needs to be done. You can't go to your third string quarterback and ask him how to help you out of that hole. So something has to go. You know, Press Taylor maybe not the job for him to be that quarterback coach. And like he's Carson Wentz's buddy, so he's never going to correct him the way he needs to be corrected. Now, if Marty Mornhinweg was to come down and become the quarterback coach, I'm all for that. That's a guy who's got some years as a coach under his belt. Another thing that I want to talk about is Doug and these timeouts. Like there's certain situations in the game where he's afraid to either call a challenge as a risk to losing a timeout. Like you can't hold on to these timeouts at the end of the game. That play with that fourth down run to Zeke, they were stop not the Zeke. DiNucci was a quarterback sneak, and they got no push whatsoever for Dallas, and we stopped them short. We stopped them well short. But Doug, waited and waited and waited, and then ultimately he didn't throw the flag. Now, I get if it's not clear, you don't want to do something, but you got to do something to defend your team because this game was nip and tuck for far too long. And to not, make that aggressive call to hey, get another set of eyes on it, like that needed to be done. And that special teams kickoff play. Like if you see something that's not normal, what's about to happen, call a timeout. There's nothing wrong with calling a timeout to getting your guys to regroup. We'd rather you use that timeout to talk about what's gonna happen as opposed to you holding on to a timeout, hoping that you need to use it to save the game when this game should have been well out of reach from the get-go. We started off with the ball first. We wanted them to have the ball first, but they did what they needed to do and put points on the board. They got a quick 3. Luckily, we came back and scored a touchdown on the very next drive. But this game, I knew we didn't need Carson to throw the ball a lot, but the way that they were designing the plays today, it was just horrible. They were running Boston Scott like he's a 230-pound back. You're going to get that guy killed. And that's not what you need to do. He's more of a change of pace back. You can't just run him between the tackles like that. We don't need to see any more Corey Clement running the football. And then Doug, please, whatever you do in your playbook, take out Jalen Hurts as your goal line quarterback. Defenses know what is coming before you even snap that ball. It's going to be option left, option right whenever you're at the 2-yard line. Stop it. You could have ended that man's career because of that boneheaded play that you called for that 2-point conversion. It just wasn't worth it. You didn't need to run it. And stop being predictable with this. We're going to get exposed by some really good football teams when we have to hit that tougher part of the stretch of the schedule. 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, when we need a quick play or just a yard. I know you don't want to keep putting Carson Wentz in harm's way with those quarterback sneaks, but why can't we do what other teams do to us? Whereas they need short yards, they go to a quick slant route. We don't do that, it's overly frustrating because we can see what's going to happen. You can see a blitz lining up in the middle, and we do some crazy play, something long developing. Throw the ball to where someone isn't on the field. If they are lined up in a zero blitz, that means somebody has an inside release on the outside. Go with that. We've got too much talent on this team to be making these kind of mistakes. And I get we didn't have the offseason that we normally had, but something has to change. The way this team plays on this field, no game is ever safe for us. We just make things way harder than they should be. And it's just, as a fan, I see what's happening on this screen. You got these coaches and all these guys within the front office, on the coaching staff. They have to see it too. Like, it's just, It baffles me. Like, we wasted 2 second-round picks in back-to-back years. Arthur Whiteside can't do anything to get on the field. I saw him on the field for maybe 2 snaps. Jalen Hurts is no. We had way too many holes on this offense, on defense, on this team in general, to just be wasting picks for guys that just can't contribute. Like, the Jalen Hurts, this is a minimal display that he's putting out on us. We're getting minimal production from him. He had 1 pass completion for what, 18 yards, 9 yards, something like that. It wasn't a spectacular splash play or anything that resulted in points. It's just they're trying to justify that he was a right pick when anyone with a brain knows that that was not the right pick that we needed to make. And it's sad that Carson Wentz has to, bear more brunt and frustration because of it, because he knows that this guy is standing over his shoulder and he's trying to play hero ball. And in the same time, the fans are bashing him for it. And putting Jalen Hurts in the game is not going to send us on a 10-game winning streak. It's just not going to happen. The man played at Oklahoma, where they don't play any defense in the Big 12. So, of course, every time he touched the football, he looked like magic. You really want to know what Jalen Hurts is? You look at some of his Alabama tape, where he couldn't throw the ball to save his life. The only thing he could do was run. That's not going to get you anywhere in the NFL. It will for a certain time frame, because like Lamar Jackson's getting exposed now. They turn him into a pocket passer. He can't hit the brace out of a bomb because of that. And I'm just glad we're going to the bye week, so that way we can kind of, pump our brakes, regroup, do what we need to do, get some guys healthy. We need to make a move at the trade deadline. Like I said, I'm not pressed too much on linebacker level now that TJ Edwards is pretty much solidified that middle linebacker spot. But Duke Riley doesn't need to be starting. He's a special teams linebacker, and that's where he should stay. Sean Bradley, Davion Taylor, you drafted these guys to be replacements and to be potential starters on defense. So that's what we need to do. Like I said, this game was just embarrassing. I'll take the win because now we have a firm lead, a full game lead in first place now. But we made this way harder. Cooper only had 1 catch. Any other quarterback, we would have been dead in the water with the performance that we put up. Hopefully things just get better. We get a bye week, then after that we get the Giants. So that kind of get some light on the end of our tunnel for us. But we just need guys to get healthy because we lost Malik Jackson, Darius Slay went out. Hopefully these are the minor injuries, and these guys were just held back for precautions because we're going to need all hands on deck moving forward. We just need to get it together. And we've got guys on the roster, on the practice squads that have made impacts on our team now. And we probably have more guys still sitting on the practice squad that are just, wasting away. Some of these short yard plays, these are perfect for Elijah Holyfield. So he must be doing something horrible in practice to the point where he can't get a call up. But again, hats off to Fulgham, man. TF13, this season would be a complete wash if he hadn't stepped up and took charge of this offense. And hopefully the coaches see now that he is an intricate part of what we need to do with this football team. The man, he's there for a reason. He's been consistently good. Even when we phase him out of the game plan, he still somehow shows up on the stat sheet and leads the way. So it's luckily, and I read that we do have him under contract for this season and next season. So that is definitely a plus. I don't know how his contract situation is going to work out because he's going to get, fair market value. I don't think he's a $20 million receiver just yet. I don't know how that works as far as, he has to accrue some years first before you can kind of make that plunge. But, we're going to go ahead and take this W, and hopefully everybody can rest up, Victory Monday tomorrow. And we just go ahead and take it like that. Again, I'll take the win, but it just wasn't impressive, especially with the level of competition we played. Because this was Cowboys week, and we should have turned it up a notch. And, it's another failure in our eyes that we still haven't scored 30 points on any opponent. And against the league's worst defense, we couldn't do that. But let's go ahead and take this W any way we can. I'll talk to y'all later.